What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering. I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you are, please remember to click that thumbs up button below the video. It really helps the channel, and I do greatly appreciate it. Today's topic for 4 p.m. is censorship, something that is near and dear to my heart, fighting against such censorship. And Sony has apparently doubled down on some new levels of protection for gamers. Now, before I get into the articles and their press release, I want to talk a little bit about what I think is okay and what I think is reasonable in terms of, blocking certain things. Now, if you're PlayStation, if you're Sony, if you're Nintendo, and by the way, I never would have thought it would be Sony as the company that is bowing to apparently a lot of kind of social justice type things. I thought for sure it would have been Nintendo or, Microsoft. But I get wanting to keep explicit games away from kids. But also on your console, I can still go to youporn.com using a PlayStation. So, are we really going to try to prevent that? People still have to purchase these games, by the way. And the thing is, when I read this details, it uses the guise of like explicit content. However, it appears that we're really just talking about anime waifus and things like that. But let me get to the Wall Street Journal. So, I get that you don't necessarily want to have certain things on your platform, but this just seems like a really weird place to draw a line, because you have games like Call of Duty where you're throwing grenades at people all day long, or you have games like Mortal Kombat where you're ripping people's heads off, and that's all okay. But a little side boob and everybody loses their mind. That's an issue. How? Why does it just doesn't make any sense to me? Those games don't necessarily appeal to me, but I do support the fandom of people that enjoy it, and I don't understand why Sony needs to be this way, and it's making me very concerned about backing the PlayStation 5. So there's a couple different articles that came out. Sony to crack down on explicit PlayStation games. Now, Sony's revealed that it's cracking down on spicy content in PlayStation games to change its, quote, in-house standards. According to CNET, Sony representative told the Wall Street Journal that this decision was based on the rise of the MeToo movement. Wow. Which has seen powerful individuals across tech, entertainment, and music industries ousted from their positions amid accusations of misconduct with women. Now, if you are aware of what the Me Too movement was or is, it was a farce. The idea that it was about giving women power to step forward and out people that had wronged them was a lie. It was about two people, Alyssa Milano and some other hack, using this movement to put their names back in the limelight. It was about attacking men, like innocent people like Chris Hardwick, and it was about smearing men whom were in positions of power and seemingly had maybe been a jerk before. But in my account, in my scorekeeping, the overwhelming majority of people who ended up hashtag MeToo'd were either innocent or never were prosecuted for anything. Now, Harvey Weinstein or Weinstein, sure, that guy was a scumbag, but he wasn't exactly like a Me Too guy. Although, well, let's put it this way. He got what he deserved. A spokesman for Sony told the Wall Street Journal that its guidelines were in place so that creators can offer well-balanced content on the platform, as well as to help ensure that playing video games does not inhibit sound growth and development of young people. The news comes after Sony revealed a long-awaited PS5, which features 8K functionality and backwards compatibility. So now there's potential legal action they're talking about. Sony isn't just concerned with the ethics of allowing explicit content in PlayStation games. It's worried about the potential legal action against the company if it doesn't introduce stricter rules for developers. A spokesman told the Wall Street Journal that there was concerned that the company could become a target of legal and social action. The crackdown on explicit content comes 5 years, oh my God, after GamerGate controversy swept the internet. So we have MeToo and GamerGate. That's what we're going to use to justify this. Somebody pulled some nice excerpts from the Sony article, Sector 7, thank you. So some of the excerpts in the Wall Street Journal article, Sony officials said executives at the company had grown concerned about its global reputation that could take a hit from explicit content sold in a few markets. One of their biggest concerns is that software sold the company's home market in Japan, which traditionally has more tolerance for near nudity images of young women who might appear underage. Two factors last year combined the turn of unease into action. One was the rise of the MeToo movement, which pointed to the dangers of being associated with content that might be seen as demeaning to women. That wasn't even really what MeToo was about. The second was the emergence of channels on sites like YouTube and Amazon and Twitch where gamers play in front of a camera and are watched by fans online. This means games meeting Japan's laxer standards can get worldwide exposure. In general, any company making a game for the platform, like the PS4, Microsoft Corporation's Xbox, and Nintendo company's Switch, signs a contract with the platform maker governing royalties and other items. That gives the platform maker an ability to block games it doesn't like. Nintendo says it doesn't regulate this type of content beyond requiring game makers to obtain a rating from national bodies. It said that game systems allow parents to restrict content based on rating. Microsoft declined to comment. You don't know what they will say until you complete the work and submit it for review, said a chief executive of a small game developer in Japan. And if they are not happy, even if they allow the same degree of content of just a few days before, we need to take it back and ask our staff to make adjustments, and that's very costly. Now, we saw this with Devil May Cry 5, where they had the lens flare protecting a butt crack, and that was a big deal. And then Sony eventually removed that. So I'm not sure where their standards lie. It's like they put it in there because they're worried that people might get upset. But then once there wasn't an uproar about it, then they allowed it back through. I mean, is Sony really using GamerGate and the Me Too movement to justify this level of censorship? And I just don't want to hear the argument that a little side boob or jiggle physics are the same thing as a 9-year-old running around with a headset microphone on and blowing people up with grenades. I mean, is that how prudish this country really is? Is that the Western countries, is the United States that much of a prude? I mean, have you turned on regular TV? And I mean, let's talk about this for a second. Sony executives want, and there was a great meme that somebody sent me, which was perfect, and I don't know if I'm going to find it now, but essentially it was saying, you know, we don't want, here it is. Sony executives like, we don't like big busted anime girls. We want realistic underage girls we can fantasize about hooking up with instead. And that's kind of, I mean, yeah, the whole Last of Us female hookup was nationally applauded, but the other one, apparently there's an issue with it. I mean, that is a great example of how this is a double standard. And I know that the market, I understand why Sony might want to limit their exposure, because it's a pretty small market in terms of people that want to play these games. For example, Dead or Alive, you know, once they started messing with their physics, they upset their core fandom, and this last game didn't sell that well. Well, also having like a $90 DLC probably wasn't a good idea. But, you know, I'm not here to judge people for the type of video games they want to play. And to be honest with you, Sony shouldn't really either. I mean, if the game is rated and allowed, is it really Sony's fault? I mean, don't you think that Sony could probably have some sort of legal protection? What they want is they want to avoid some hit piece on BuzzFeed about how they facilitate the objectification of women, but they also want all the praise from, you know, putting these two teenagers kissing on the big screen as a woke point thing. I think that this is a lot of jargon to cover up that I think Sony is actually a little social justicey now, and I'm not sure where that's coming from, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm guessing that it's the American influence, but I'm not buying that the Me Too movement is something that prompted you to censor video games. I'm also not buying that being worried about a little side boob is forcing this level of censorship either. You have games where you're using a sword and chopping people up, or you're playing Call of Duty, or you're playing Battlefield. Sony has no problem with these games. I think what this really is about is about social justice, because if I had to pick which my young children were exposed to, it'd probably be a little side boob over some violent video games. Now, I don't really care that much. They can play whatever they want, but you get the point I'm trying to make. And I know that this is a small market, but it's important to, as a PlayStation loyalist, as somebody who's owned literally every PlayStation, look behind me. I've got them all in boxes. If they continue to go down this road, and it would appear that they are, maybe that means I'm going to rock Xbox next time around, or maybe I just stay out of console gaming altogether, because it's about the principle of things, not necessarily, okay, look, I don't play those games, but I wouldn't begrudge others who play them. And also, I don't support this level of censorship, especially when it's a total BS reason. It's total smokescreen. They're just doing it to bend the knee to social justice. They want to have some corporate policy that forbids spicy video games like Dead or Alive or things like that. And they just want to say, well, it's to protect the company. I don't know. I'm not buying it. And Sony, this is a pretty disgusting display, and I gotta say, I'm pretty disappointed in you. And I hope that people watching this video understand that it's not necessarily about, I want more anime boobs. It's not about that. It's about the clear double standard. We just talked about this with Mortal Kombat, right? This clown trots out, well, I don't think it's practical that women would be wearing a bikini and fighting for their life. But in the same game, they have all the men shirtless, basically wearing diapers. Okay, so these people are lying to you. This developer, this costume designer, lead developer at Mortal Kombat or NetherRealm or whatever, he's lying. It's about pandering to SJWs. It's not about protecting women. It's not about more realistic armor. And this is just another thing that they're going to try to pee on your leg and tell you it's raining and say that they're doing it for this or that reason, when it would appear to me that they're just bending the knee and kissing the ring. Disgusting behavior by PlayStation.